You will hear a siren right here on the South African morning, and that's to remind you that a car has just being hijacked, of course, anywhere in the country. And we know those numbers are currently accelerating, so please be careful. But to bring you those stats, 14%, that's the increase between April and June this year. That's been accounted for, this compared to the same period last year. And that's a total of 5,866 hijackings were reported across the country in that period in 2022. But let's go back now to the intersection of Jan Smuts and Willem Nicole Drive, and partner in news, G-Dog, Gareth Edwards, joining me right on time. I hate to say it, the siren, the siren once again. I mean, yes, it's to keep our viewers alert, but I mean, again, that's the reality of the country. A hijacking just took place.
And that's exactly why we've got it there. So if you just joined us, you can hear what I'm sure is a police siren in the background. Since 6 o'clock this morning, starting at 22 after 6, we've been playing that siren as an indicator that is how often a car is being hijacked. Now, it could be a taxi like a Toyota Quantum. It could also, if you take a look at the stats released by Fidelity Security, the Toyota Hilux is the most hijacked vehicle in South Africa. It doesn't say whether it's a double cab or single cab, but the Toyota Hilux Bucky, the Volkswagen Polo, the passenger vehicle, the Toyota Quantum, which, as I mentioned, is commonly used as a taxi, but it's a bit of a people carrier. And the fourth most hijacked vehicle in the country is the Nissan NP200. If you don't know what that is, it's like a Bucky, but it's a smaller version of a Bucky. It's not quite a 4x4, but it's the Toyota Hilux, Volkswagen Polo, and Toyota Quantum as well. So I just heard Heidi Jokos talking about the various interventions as far as the policing is concerned to try and get on top of the hijacking scourge in our country. I'd like to now bring into the conversation someone who can hopefully give us a bit more practical advice as to what to do to try and prevent a hijacking in the first place. And sadly, of course, Jumza, if you find yourself in a situation, what do you do? Hopefully still with me is Richard Brussow from the National Hijack Prevention Academy out in Pretoria. Richard, good to have you on ENCA. I appreciate your time. I hope you can hear me over the traffic. Before we talk about what to do in the event of being hijacked, can we start with what some people are calling soft targets? What do we as drivers in South Africa do that make us an easy target? Richard, good morning. Let's start there.
Good morning, Gareth. Hope you're well. When we say soft targets, is most South Africans, or a larger percentage of them, when they drive around, they distracted. They're either on their cell phones or they're busy social media, whatever the case might be. And the criminal picks this up very quickly. An example, if you look at traffic in winter, especially in the evenings going home by 6 o'clock, look at how many cars illuminate on the inside. It's because the driver is on the cell phone. He or she is not concentrating on their surroundings.
So that's a nice, easy way of understanding what the criminal elements are looking for. Just by having the backlight of your cell phone on obviously means your cell phone is not only with you in the vehicle, but also you're actively using it, a nice, easy target as well.
Correct.
So what are some of the tips that you have to prevent a hijacking?
Let's start off with, let's say, William Nicol Drive, where you are currently now. Now, I know there's a lot of traffic, so obviously you're going to be stuck in traffic as a person going to the office, driving lunchtime, coming home in the afternoon. The first thing we must start doing is work on your escape routes. When you approach a vehicle in front of you, try and sit nice and comfortable in your vehicle. Look over your vehicle's bonnet. You must be able to see the vehicle in front of yours, rear tires touch the road. Also, when you drive, ladies, remember 9 out of 10 times the robber smashes left passenger window, because most ladies put handbags either on the ground, half under the passenger seat, or under the dashboard. If you don't want to place your handbag in the boot, make sure it's properly zip closed under the legs. So when you brake hard, nothing rolls out and gets stuck under the pedals or so on. But you have to leave an escape route, that if something happens, there might be a possibility of going left, going right, escaping out of the situation.
There was a sort of school of thought a couple of years ago, Richard, and tell me if this is relevant or if it's actually just bad advice, especially for Joburgers. The advice was, if you have an incident, what you should do, like a hijacking, what you should do is put your foot down and drive into the car in front of you to create awareness. Good idea or bad idea?
Gareth, you know, every case has got its own merit. You must think of it this way. If a person is in the vehicle with you, pointing a firearm at you, and you make a decision to drive into another vehicle, you must remember your airbags are going to deploy. At that time of the airbags deploying, I do not want a firearm pointed at me. You know, I always say, if I can see the color of the weapon pointed at me, and I can see it's a silver or a black gun in color, my brain must be able to say, hey, they are so close to me, they're going to cause me grievous bodily harm. Let it go. We can fight another day. If there's an individual with you pointing a firearm at you, I'm going to answer this in two. If you're a lady driver, the first intersection or traffic light you get to, you try and get out of that motor car. Remember, ladies, if they were going to cause you grievous bodily harm here, what prevents them from causing you harm where they're taking you? After they had their fun with you, you know that scenario. The longer you are in their presence, the easier for them to identify you. As a man in the vehicle, I'm sorry. Remember, a woman has never been a threat and will never be a threat, but a man is a threat. So if the gun is pointed at you as a man, I'm sorry. The reason why he might be taking you with is either down the road to the ATM to draw money, alternatively take you to the veld because he thinks your vehicle has got a tracking system in. So as a woman, try and make a decision today. I will not go with them. As a man, I'm sorry, because they see you as a threat.
I suppose one of the biggest issues as well, just as I start saying goodbye to you, Richard, is this new scourge of blackouts that we're dealing with as well. For a couple of reasons, we're seeing even worse traffic volumes than before. We often don't have street lights that are working, and when people are arriving home, they're sadly, like we're going to do today with blackouts from 4 o'clock, we're going to be arriving home in the dark as well. It seems like all the elements are against us. It's one thing to be sitting in traffic with cars surrounding you and lots of lighting around you, but it's even worse when we're dealing with prolonged traffic queues because of blackouts and arriving home in the dark. How do we try and be more observant when we are literally kept in the dark? What do we do there?
You know what, Gareth, I would say, remember, when you drive home, especially in the afternoon, keep in mind that 69% of all vehicle hijackings in Gauteng happen in home driveways. So when you drive home in the afternoon and you take an off-ramp, if the lights are on or off, it's irrelevant. Every big residential and industrial area that's near an off-ramp has normally got a filling station in under 2 kilometers. Focus on your surroundings. When you take that off-ramp, have a look at the filling station. I'm not saying have a look at people putting in petrol. The robbers love the filling stations. They like to sit, they wait for their target vehicles, and they like to follow out. When you arrive home, focus those last 2-3 kilometers. Also forget that robbers don't always just drive nice cars. What we've seen a bit of a change over the last 2 years, where the robbers would say, if I drive a nice car, I sometimes battle to get close to my victims because the people have got clever, the people are scared. But if we use a car that the victim would not think we as robbers drive, we can get so close to the victim, by the time the victim realizes there's something wrong, we've got them. So when you approach your house, try and stop parallel if possible. That gives you escape route forward, sideways, backwards. If you've got auto gate, press the remote. As soon as the gates open and you've turned in, stop. Wait for the gate to close behind you immediately. Let's limit this crime to only a hijacking. Let's not let it roll over into a house robbery, because the mistake people make is they arrive home, there were no cars behind them. So there's no little voice convincing or telling them, be careful, close the gate, check the car behind me. You drive in, you go and park the car. Only when you exit do you close the gate. That gate behind you has been standing open for about 45 seconds. The problem now is the deeper you've entered, the deeper the robbers must follow. And that is a lot of times, especially Friday evenings, when hijacking rolls over into house robbery. Focus on your surroundings. There is no telephone call or WhatsApp or message more important than your safety those last 2-3 kilometers when you drive home.
That is such an interesting way of looking at it as well, especially when you drive in, make sure that gate or that garage is closed before you exit the vehicle. It sounds so simple when you say it, Richard, but I don't think a lot of people would know to do that. And I appreciate your time this morning in joining us. Richard Brussow, National Hijack Prevention Academy. I'm sure you can go and look for that, go and Google them, and I'm sure you can get some more advice, maybe even some courses from Richard and the National Hijack Prevention Academy. Tumza. And that's why we wanted to talk to Richard this morning, because they are very simple when you hear it being explained to you, Tumza, that are quite common. And logical as well. But if you don't know, if you don't think about it like that, you might not look at your surroundings when you're driving home this afternoon. Try it when you get home tonight. See if you can find an escape route at an intersection. Just be more aware. Take your eyes off Twitter. Take your eyes off your very fancy center console. Just look around you. When you get home, maybe practice that. Just stand outside the gate, wait for it to open, drive in. Let the gate close. Keep your car running and locked. Wait for that gate to close. Check your surroundings before you get out. It's simple when it's explained to you, but maybe if you haven't had it told to you, you might not have thought to it. I'm going to try it tonight when I get home as well.
Yeah.
I'm probably a bit lax, but as of today, I'm going to definitely change what I'm doing when I get home.
Absolutely, and I think that's information to share even with your close circle, your family, your friends, any children around, because, I mean, we saw with just last week reporting that a hijacking incident took place by a school, so children as well may be in danger. Perhaps a conversation to have around dinner time tonight to say, make sure you're aware of your surroundings. If there's danger as a child, make sure you run for cover or run to an adult. G, thank you so much for bringing this to the fore, and I appreciate what your guest had to say, because it talks about the agency that you may have in terms of, preventing a fatal or potentially fatal incident from happening and protecting yourself as well in the meantime. So we'll continue.